Debunking Exoticals United's Talking Points episode number 1. Creating our own space. Hello, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I want to critique a talking point from Exoticals United's channel. EU hasn't gotten much formal criticism from non-black women empowerment creators against her talking points on YouTube, so I wanted to step in to be that voice. I saw her mocking a black woman brave enough to come on camera and critique the exotical movement. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. She wanted to ridicule every little thing the black woman said, so I decided to script a video analyzing her own inconsistencies. It's easy to nitpick everyone else. Let's see how she likes it now that it's her turn. Exoticals United claims the exotical space was created because the black women empowerment space was hostile to MLS women and women who benefit from the isms. Here is my issue with this talking point. EU doesn't speak solely to issues faced by MLS women and women who benefit from the isms. One, she frequently makes controversial content speculating on the mental health of unambiguous black women. She has made the argument some unambiguous dark-skinned black women have internalized inferiority complexes. I'll be using unambiguous black women and unambiguous dark-skinned black women interchangeably throughout this video. By speaking on unambiguous black women's mental health as someone who, 1, is not an unambiguous black woman, and 2, is not a mental health professional, she is opening herself up to criticism from unambiguous black women and allies of unambiguous black women who don't appreciate and/or who disagree with her speculative commentary. While EU technically has the right to upload speculative commentary on unambiguous black women's mental health, unless you want to make the claim her content could fall under hate speech, which would be a valid argument, because if a white woman said dark-skinned black women have internalized inferiority complexes, I'm sure that wouldn't fly. My issue is whenever she gets criticism from unambiguous dark-skinned black women for her commentary, she likes to run to saying, well, my content is for MLS women and women who benefit from the isms. Why are you watching this? It doesn't matter why they're watching your content. They can watch the channel for any reason they like, and their criticism of you would still be valid. EU watches Chrissy as someone who isn't an unambiguous black woman, but gets confused when unambiguous black women watch her. She's even said that black women are committing harm to themselves by watching her content if they can't relate. Wait a second. If your content is just uplifting MLS women and black women who benefit from the isms, why would your content be harm to the self to people who can't relate? This statement she's made points to the truth that her content isn't just feel-good content for MLS women and women who benefit from the isms, but is actually antagonistic to unambiguous black women. If your content is a form of harm to the self for anyone, why create it at all? Going back to EU's claim, well, my content is for MLS women and women who benefit from the isms. Why are you watching this? This claim is fallacious because, like I said, EU doesn't just make content about being an MLS woman or being a woman who benefits from the isms. If you upload content speaking on unambiguous black women's experiences, perspectives, and/or mental health, they are 100% allowed to respond to you and your content. This is another issue I have with EU. She heavily moderates comments, which is perfectly fine for creators to do, as your channel is your channel. My issue with her heavily moderating comments is she gets to say whatever she wants about unambiguous dark-skinned black women, but when unambiguous dark-skinned black women and their allies respond, she will censor them and claim the space isn't for them. You made the space for and/or about them by constantly including them in your commentary and making several points that could offend them. This also goes with men and her decentering men content. You can't make several videos speaking negatively about men relating to dating and relationships and also create videos where you speak negatively about black men then run to this defense of, why is a man watching my quote-unquote feminine channel? Duh, because you're speaking negatively to men in a way that they don't like. This highlights another hypocrisy with EU. Whenever anyone is critical of her, or the exoticals in general, she's ready to hop on the microphone, not the camera of course, to clap back. However, if the frequent targets of her negative commentary, men and unambiguous black women, respond to her, she deflects to, well, this space is for MLS women and black women who benefit from the isms. No, EU, that's simply the audience you want for your channel. You attract men and unambiguous Black women to your channel by making content about them, so they're also your audience whether you like it or not. The content is for any of the affected parties you're speaking of and or on, positively or negatively. In fact, one of the funny things is, wouldn't she want men to watch her decentering men content if men are so bad and in need of course correction? Well, I think her decentering men content is mainly directed at women, encouraging them to view life outside of just focusing on becoming a girlfriend or wife. I think it's odd she will accuse men of being weird for watching her content or being critical of her. You made content speaking on them? Expect responses and criticisms. This is something EU does a lot. Throws stones then hides her hands. Black men aren't sus for engaging with your content when you put them in the thumbnails and make negative assertions about their behavior as a collective in your titles. If she thinks unambiguous Black women have inferiority complexes to heal from, wouldn't she want them to watch her content to unlearn them? The great EU is gonna teach unambiguous Black women an experience she's never had. How to unlearn their inferiority complexes, which she apparently understands despite repeatedly distancing herself from them, saying she can't relate to their experiences as a quote-unquote pretty MLS woman. That's the funny thing. EU thinks she can repeatedly make targeted content at groups of people, but acts confused when those people give her the same energy she gives them. As I previously mentioned, heavily moderating her comments shows a form of hypocrisy by EU. EU frequently says that the colorism conversation was never a conversation as BWE creators maligned MLS women and Black women who benefit from the isms and never allowed them to speak. If you're so concerned about there being an actual conversation, why do you yourself censor criticism and strawman your critics? Because it would seem to me, if Exoticals are having one-way conversations just like BWE creators, they're just a new version of ineffective online discourse going nowhere and creating further division between marginalized people. Is that your aim, EU? To line your pockets while encouraging a further divide between MLS and unambiguous dark-skinned Black women? To profit off of an issue in your own community as someone with Black ancestry? Point 2. EU creates a lot of content about unambiguous Black women in the public eye despite claiming her channel and content is centered around MLS women and Black women who benefit from the isms. She made a video about Normani's single failing to chart. The funny thing is EU critiqued BWE creators for not shouting out Normani's album or singles, but she herself has made more content about unambiguous Black women celebrities than MLS celebrities and Black women who benefit from the isms. It's funny, she only made content about Nara Smith, an exotical. 1. Because she wanted to critique unambiguous Black women for critiquing Nara's looks on Lipstick Alley, and 2. Because she wanted to drag an unambiguous creator, Oneswa, for calling Smith out for allegedly copying her. Fun fact, Oneswa said that she was upset because she felt Nara was copying her videos because she, Oneswa, doesn't get paid off of views in her own country. However, EU implies that Oneswa airing her grievances is her implying she is a poor African woman from a poor African village struggling to feed a starving African child. Note here Oneswa never says she is impoverished, but EU states Oneswa is, implying as much, revealing EU's own biases against unambiguous Africans. Why didn't EU make videos hyping Nara up before Oneswa critiqued her or before Lipstick Alley dragged her? It's almost as if EU's content is more focused on unambiguous Black women than MLS women. Haha. Instead of speaking on Normani's single not charting, why not speak on Halle Bailey's single not charting since she's apparently an exotical? Why not make a video promoting The Little Mermaid or Tyla's music? Since your channel is a space for MLS women and Black women who benefit from the isms, she repeatedly states that unambiguous Black women wanted Chloe over Ari Lennox, ignoring Chloe's poor album sales that were lower than Normani's with more promo, and the fact many of her singles failed to chart as well. The funny thing about EU is she's quick to point out an unambiguous Black woman taking an L like Normani, but she didn't acknowledge how Tyla's tour was allegedly cancelled because of poor sales. This was also never mentioned in her video claiming unambiguous Black women want Tyla to be their representation. That video was funny because she claims unambiguous black women want Tyla to be their representation when many unambiguous black women, including her critics, have been stating they feel Tyla is not black. How can they want her to be their representation when they have been saying she's not black for months? Going back to EU speaking on unambiguous black female celebrities, why is EU creating content about Normani failing to chart and Kelly Rowland bleaching her skin if her content is for MLS women and women who benefit from the isms? Normani isn't an exotical by EU's standards, so her music isn't relevant to MLS women and black women who benefit from the isms discussions. Kelly Rowland by her standards is not an exotical, so speaking on if Kelly Rowland is bleaching has nothing to do with MLS women and women who benefit from the isms. I think this points to an unspoken motive of EU. By constantly calling out black women taking L's in the public eye and making negative assertions about their self-esteem and mental health, she can goad black women into hate watching her content, disliking it, and keeping her name in the blogs and YouTube streets. This relates to her story time content as well. Of course, when you upload tons of stories where unambiguous dark-skinned black women are painted as the assailants of innocent never done anything wrong in their lives, quote-unquote exoticals over and over and over again, unambiguous black women are going to take offense. Because you're creating a narrative through highlighting certain stories that many unambiguous black women are antagonistic and jealous of MLS women. If EU truly cared about creating a safe space for MLS women and black women who benefit from the isms, she would take the focus off of maligning unambiguous black women and men and would focus on uplifting MLS women and black women who benefit from the isms. I can see her trying to play dumb and asking where exactly she has maligned unambiguous black women and men. I would respond to that by saying, what would be the takeaway an individual would have about said groups after watching her content? She doesn't have to say negative things about these groups directly to be sending out a negative message to her audience. EU is self-aware enough to know she can't explicitly state negative things. She has to veil it in so-called objective critiques somehow loosely based in psychology and sociology, though she's never produced any credentials proving herself in these fields of study. Returning to my point about how EU's content would be different if it was truly centered on creating a safe space for MLS women and black women who benefit from the isms, I feel if she truly cared, she would highlight their wins and instances of men treating them well. She would highlight MLS celebs and black women who benefit from the isms rather than focusing on people with a different phenotype she claims not to be able to relate to but loves to speak about. Putting Google images of MLS women and black women who benefit from the isms throughout your videos isn't enough when you're constantly bringing up unambiguous dark-skinned black women unprovoked. Your safe space shouldn't disrupt others. While I agree with some of Exoticals United's talking points, I think she is a net negative in the black commentary space as she reinforces negative stereotypes about unambiguous dark-skinned black women, that they're jealous, angry, bitter, mentally unwell, etc. Remember, she's not a mental health professional, further triggering unambiguous dark-skinned black women rather than building a bridge to black female unity and taking a more mature approach to sensitive topics. If an unambiguous black woman wants to watch EU's content, she'll have to shovel through tons of stories where the unambiguous black woman is framed as the aggressive assailant and tons of videos where EU speculates on what is going on in the heads of women with a perspective she's never experienced personally. Loosely quoting Will Smith, keep unambiguous black women's names out of your expletive mouth.